All right, we're going to be talking with Abby about her experience in the Becoming Limitless program over the last 6 months. She has been a joy to work with, and wow, we're going to talk about implementation. Abby has done such a great job, but we want to hear her story today. So, Abby, do you want to share a little bit about what you were struggling with when we started working together? What was the big thing that you were like, oh, this is driving me crazy?
Yes. Well, there was more things that I actually was aware of, and you helped unpack that for me. But the biggest thing was like my sleep and my relationship with sleep, and being able to get to sleep at a good time, not taking 2 hours to fall asleep, being able to wake up at a good time, and just shifting that entire sleep cycle. That was really my biggest struggle at the time, and so that was the thing that caught my attention the most about like what you did was that it was a focus on that, and I didn't even really know that was a thing for coaches. I thought that was maybe, "Oh, you just go find a therapist or something like that," but it was like a thing for coaches, so when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, sleep, maybe there's a solution." So that was my struggle, and that's what caught my eye.
That's so funny. And what was like that final moment when you were like, okay, it's gotten to this point, we need to make a change?
I was just seeing how much time I felt like I was wasting every day because my relationship with sleep was so messed up. Like the fact that it would take me 2 hours to fall asleep at certain times when that was like at its worst. Like that's 2 hours of my life every day that could have been shifted in some other way. The fact that I'd have to make up that 2 hours on the back end to not feel groggy, like sleep later in the day. And again, I was losing that time. So that was just the pressure that just kept bearing down, and with things I wanted to accomplish in my life and my business, I was losing so much time every I mean, if we added up the hours by the year, I was losing so much time. I was like, I don't want this to be a burden all the time anymore. And I think that was the pressure point that just made me want to find a way to change it.
Oh, so what would you say of the things that we've implemented together? What has had the biggest impact on your life and your business?
Well, definitely the changes you've helped me make with my sleep has had the biggest impact by far because I've I've been able to I literally feel like I've been able to get almost 2 additional hours of life every day because and it's not stressful because when there's been times when I would go throughout my day and my association with the thoughts even I'd have around sleep would make me just dread bedtime coming, and those have completely gone away now, I don't even think about it. And so, I mean, ultimately, it's really just been about how much better I've been able to sleep and the relationship with the sleep that has changed and made the biggest impact to everything. And as a result, I'm showing up better for my business and my family and other things I want to accomplish for myself and just feeling better in general, like more well-rounded and healthy. So
Oh, I love that. And we found that too, that after you started getting your sleep in a rhythm, you started getting to sleep on time, falling asleep, like that opened up space to work on so many other things with your health. I don't know if you want to speak to some of the other things that we got the chance to work on too.
yes. Yeah, we had a chance to work on so many other things that I wasn't even planning on working on, but I saw how important they were in being connected to all those other things, not just sleep. So, getting to improve my diet, which did impact my sleep in a lot of ways too. Being more balanced and taking breaks, which helped balance my mental health, which helped me unwind better in the evenings and all of that stuff. So, before I wasn't eating 3 meals a day. Sometimes I was eating only 1 meal a day. I was waiting till dinner at times to eat. So, I'm now eating 3 meals a day. I feel way more balanced and stable mentally because my blood sugar is not going all over the place. I learned how easy it was to implement those things, and it didn't have to be this super hard process of having all these fresh prepped meals or, difficult meals to make. It can be very easy on how I can make sure I'm taking care of myself and, not only sleep wise, but also food wise. And then, yeah, there's been obviously lots of other things along our journey too, like just the mental like side of learning how to process situations and handle stress and resilience to things, and you just helping me change my perspective as well. It's been very invaluable to have someone just give me a different perspective on certain things that have come up over our coaching relationship. You've given me a new way to think about things as well.
Ah, that's amazing to hear. Did you find the work that we did together, was it actionable? Like, did you always feel like you knew what to work on next and why things were working and why they weren't?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt it was 100% actionable. Every week, the meeting would end with, here's what we're doing this week. And it would be these little steps. And what I loved is these steps were tiny. Like you told me this in the beginning, it's just a little bit at a time. And I think one of the reasons that, people can dread doing coaching or certain things is they feel like when they do it, it's going to be like, let's sit down and let's make all these big changes like right now. And it gets scary. And even though your comfort zone is still not really comfortable, it's more comfortable because it's familiar. And so you made it easier to come out of that because it was just a little at a time. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, it's kind of like a dimmer switch. Like people think about changes like a light switch where it's like on, off, this flip, but it can be like a dimmer switch. Like our process was a dimmer switch. It was just a little bit at a time, bringing the light up to where we wanted it to be. And then all this time passes and it went from a dark room to a light room. And it was just this little dimmer switch and these little moves that like we did together. So all those little actionable steps got me where I wanted to be 6 months later. So the process works. I will say that.
That's amazing. Well, and speaking on that, so if you were speaking to someone who is on the fence and they're nervous about it, right? Because like what you said, sometimes they're nervous about jumping in and doing all the things with coaching, or they didn't know if the way I coach works. Like, what would you say to someone who's on the fence and unsure of whether they want to join or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was one of those people who said to you, I don't think this is going to work for me. And looking back, what's funny is as I was thinking about that statement the other day, I was like, that's so arrogant. I was like, to have this attitude that this can't work for me, but I haven't even tried it. Like, I'm saying this in hindsight. Would totally empathize with a person who would feel that in the beginning because it's a very real feeling, and like allow yourself to feel that, but don't be so stubborn and arrogant to not try because it's really as easy as this week we're making this tiny change and it's so small that you don't feel like you're out of control. You don't feel like someone's literally taken away your comfort zones in a second. It's just this little change. And when they accumulate, you see a completely different version of you. So I would say to that person, I would say if it worked for me and I was that skeptical because I thought I was that special, it can work for you.
Oh my God. Okay, I have to ask one follow-up question on that.
Okay.
What was it that took you from feeling so skeptical and like this can't work for me to saying yes and trusting yourself and me too to do this together?
I think like when I was in the trenches of the problems, things that were coming up where it felt kind of shaky to like make those little changes. There were times where, got a little shaky. Seeing that like you were there advocating for me and that I wasn't alone in the process, because I think when we all set out to make changes, we often do it alone and then we beat ourselves up when we don't hit our goals. But when you have somebody there who's like, hey, I'm advocating for you to do this, I'm fighting for what you want. And if this isn't working for you, let's try a different approach. Like that was the thing that sort of took me by surprise with you is like when I would come with like, oh, this isn't working or I'm having a problem or it's stressing me out, you'd be like, okay, here's 3 other things we can try then to still get you progress and get you where you want to go. And it worked. Like it wasn't like this set it and forget it. Like this is the only path to get where you want to go. There was lots of different avenues to try to get there. And so that fostered like once I saw that and then I was trying those alternate things that you were suggesting when something else maybe didn't work initially, I was like, oh, okay, there's other ways to get to the destination. It's not like this brick wall we have to walk through or something like that. So it made each step feel easier because then I started to see it work. And then when we tried the next thing, I was like, oh, okay, well now this works. And I think we kind of create a confirmation bias in our head, where it's like, this isn't going to work for me or something like that. And then you come up with 3 other ways that we can try it. And you just surprise us and you're like, well, okay, no problem. Here's 3 other ideas. So hopefully that answers the question, but that was my experience.
Yeah, so it was just like it's okay if the first way doesn't work because that's
Yeah,
normal. You
yeah,
validating too that that's normal.
yeah, it's normal. Yeah, and you never made me feel like it was hard to fix it. It was the most light and easy thing in the world. It was like, okay, no worries, let's just do this. It was like someone was saying, don't forget to pick milk up on the way home. I was like, oh, okay, no pressure.
That used to be my favorite thing I think I've ever heard. That was amazing. Well, Abby, I really appreciate you sharing. Is there anything else you'd like to add or that you think would be helpful for someone who's about ready to make this change?
Yeah, I would say you'll never change if you don't take action. And if you don't feel strong enough to take the action on your own, and a lot of us don't, you need someone to advocate for you, to guide you, and to fight for what you want. Then, get on a coaching call with Tanessa, get into one of her tiers of her programs, and she will absolutely fight for you to get where you want to go.
Thank you so much, Abby. It has been a pleasure to work with you over the last 6 months.
Yes, me too, Tanessa. Thank you so much.
Want to know more about the Becoming Limitless program? Everything you need to know is linked in the description. You can head to my website at tanessashears.com to learn all about the program. Or if you're not ready to work together yet, you can check out my free podcast, Becoming Limitless. It's the go-to podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking.